Hello and welcome to The Kaiju is in the Details. I'm Ian.
I'm Haru.
And today we watched Mighty Joe Young from 1949. And not exactly a kaiju movie. I'll get into why I chose this one to be on the list in a bit. But before that, Haru, what'd you think of it?
It wasn't great.
No, it really wasn't. This one's a weird one.
Yeah. I still
It's
think King Kong is the best one that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think I agree. Now, would you say Son of Kong, Mighty Joe Young, which one of those is worse?
I would have to say Son of Kong.
Hmm.
Just because like Son of Kong is so the thing with Mighty Joe Young, I wouldn't say original's not the word that I'm looking for, but it is its own thing at least, whereas Son of Kong literally didn't need to exist at all. It was just capital.
Yeah, it's very rushed. And you can tell in like the effects and basically
Mm-hmm.
everything about the movie. They just do King Kong again, except they don't get off the island that time.
Yeah.
um, and it's a lot shorter, which in this case, I actually think being shorter is better because Mighty Joe Young is
Yeah.
excruciating in its length. We'll get into that later as well. But suffice to say, I do still think Son of Kong is worse, even though I think Mighty Joe Young feels worse to watch in some ways.
It's because Son of Kong is quick. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's done.
It's like 100 minutes total.
Yeah. Whereas this
Uh,
one is just like pulling teeth.
this one goes on and on. And
Ah.
I guess it was also a similar length. It just feels longer. Now that I think about it, I think it is actually because like I think Son of Kong was 100 minutes, and this one would be about 100 minutes as well. Actually, now that I think about it, it just feels
It just
longer. There's like
feels so much longer.
there's we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. Um, but first, let's explain why we're talking about Mighty Joe Young. So Mighty Joe Young is not a kaiju. Would you like would you say he's a
No.
kaiju?
No.
He's
I was like he's he's like um
he's a big gorilla.
he is a big gorilla. He's bigger than your average gorilla.
He's smarter than the average bear. Hey, boo boo.
But he is not. He's not even as big as Son of Kong.
Yeah, he's not even Son of Kong size.
Um, I guess a lot of the themes are still there, like that
Oh,
make
it's
a
the same
kaiju
movie.
film. Like it is. Yeah, it is. Like they go to like indigenous area and
They go
take.
to Africa instead of the
Yeah,
Pacific Islands this
yeah,
time,
that's true.
which makes more sense with the casting choices they made. But
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so they go to just like in an indigenous part of the world, take something from there that belongs there, bring it back to New York. Or this time it wasn't in New York, was it?
it was Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you see, it's the same movie as King Kong. They just changed locations.
Yeah, they just swapped a couple of names. It's and Robert Armstrong's here too.
Yeah, he
He's playing the
loves
same character except more sleazy this time.
he just loves big monkeys.
Monkey. He's once again in a monkey movie taking a gorilla from Africa to make a show of it in America.
Yeah.
It's Robert Armstrong is typecast as, as that exact guy.
You just look at him and you just think, oh, that guy would steal a monkey to make money.
Apparently. Apparently. Um so yeah, with this movie we're no longer in the 30s, we are now in the 40s, late 40s in fact. We're almost
Hmm.
into the 50s. We'll be in the 50s very shortly. Um this movie was made by the same creative team as King Kong. That's why it shares so much creative DNA with it.
Hmm.
And this is the first, I believe, time that Ray Harryhausen gets full control over a project. So he's taking over the mantle of his mentor, Willis O'Brien, which is pretty cool. That's why the stop motion animation in this one is smoother, I would say. I think it's a bit smoother than the stuff you saw in King Kong.
Mm-hmm.
But it does also look a little worse, I would say. The
Yeah.
models aren't as clean.
I was as I
The
was
work is smoother.
watching,
It's interesting.
as I was watching the special effects of this movie, it really stood out to me. Like they felt a lot worse compared to King Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Like just because I could see exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like King Kong, at least I could withhold some disbelief, but this movie, it was literally just like we did a claymation and we put a movie behind it.
Yeah. But the animation of those claymation creatures feels so much smoother this time around. It's just
Yeah,
the motion is very fluid.
yeah, it's still kind of choppy, but it's less choppy than King Kong was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will say this movie is really racist.
Yeah.
I think this one's actually more racist than King Kong. Would you say? It's hard. It's a hard,
Yeah.
but like
I
this
would
one feels more racist. It doesn't have Charlie in
so
it.
so with King Kong, like the part of it is because with King Kong we only really see not like other than Charlie, we only really see the non-white people like when we're on the island.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see any of them back in New York. Whereas with this movie, it really just went. Even when they were back in Hollywood, it's like you see them flaunting around the exotic African
Mm-hmm.
culture with like yeah.
Well, and this movie starts in Africa
Yep.
with a white farmer who has stolen land.
And and it doesn't even say where in Africa. It just says Africa.
According to Wikipedia, it's the Tanganyika territory.
Yeah, I mean, so
So East
sh-
Africa.
yeah, she
Um,
was mentioning Swahili in the beginning, I think,
mm-hmm.
which
And
I
the
looked
guys that she was talking to didn't speak it, and so
yeah.
that's why she was just like shouting. By the way, I don't know Swahili. I don't know how to
Hmm.
recognize Swahili when it's being spoken. I don't think a single word of Swahili was spoken in this movie
Yeah, I was wondering about that, whether they actually bothered or
because it didn't
whether
sound like a
it's
language. They sounded like they were
yeah,
shouting the same words, the same gibberish words over and
yeah.
over again.
And like some of the words that they did shout sounded very similar to a word in English that would just be like, yeah. Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, but
so
it didn't sound real.
yeah.
And there's another moment later on which it definitely wasn't real.
But yeah, like when she mentioned Swahili, I looked up on my phone as we were watching, like, okay, which parts of Africa speak Swahili, and yeah, it is like Eastern Africa.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't say any of that in the movie. It's just Africa. The entire continent is just homogenous. We know that, right?
Yeah, of
The
course. Yeah.
like that there's no different parts of Africa that have different cultures and different no, it's just all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, like from the get-go, from the very first thing you see in the movie, it's like, oh, this movie's racist.
Yeah, I mean, it's like literally the very first shot of the movie with the title credits and all
Mm-hmm.
is Africans working in a field
Yep.
over, and you can see the fucking plantation house in the distance. And like the main character is the daughter of the owner of this plantation.
Mm-hmm.
The owner of the plantation is the guy who finances the buying of the gorilla that will become Mighty Joe Young. it's not good.
Yeah. This movie literally it starts off set in Africa, starring white people in Africa.
Yeah.
And the few black people that we do see in this movie, which there are quite a few, maybe
Mm-hmm.
not. I don't think there were quite as many as there were with the indigenous people from King Kong, but there was still a
I would say they
significant number.
play a larger role,
Yeah, like
but there's less of them, though.
I would say in King Kong they were more of like they all played the same role, or in
Hmm.
this one they at least the few characters that they did have like played slightly different roles. But
Which was all you can all boil it down to black person who yells foreign words at white people.
yeah, pretty much. They did have a maid on the plantation, and like,
Mm-hmm.
and then there were like the entertainers, back in Hollywood. But like,
Yeah, but
yeah,
one side of our cast are playing white colonizers in Africa, and the other half of our cast are playing people going on a safari in Africa
mm-hmm,
so that they can steal a bunch of lions and put them in a Hollywood nightclub.
yep,
So like everyone feels pretty rancid in this one.
yeah. It, yeah.
And
This
like
movie was
more so than
gross.
Kong, I would say, because in Kong they were offensive to these. They did not respect the people they ran into,
Uh huh.
but at least they didn't have to do that for very long.
Yeah.
The only thing they took back with them was Kong.
Yeah. Ugh.
Uh but despite this overwhelming feeling of just racism permeating through this movie, it's also incredibly twee. It's like, oh man, it wants to be funny in like a cutesy way so bad.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't quite as heinous as Son of Kong in that regard, but like, it
Oh, I
was
mean, I would say it's worse than Son of Kong in some ways. And
really.
like the dad of the girl being like, "I will not raise a gorilla," and then immediately cuts to the gorilla drinking milk. Like, come
You
on,
know
that's
what?
sitcom shit.
That is a good point. Yeah, I'd forgotten about
this
that scene.
this shitty ass precocious kid trading a flashlight for a baby gorilla. Like, come on.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give you that.
Every single bit of humor except for exactly 2 lines in the movie falls completely flat. I can see why this became a Disney movie later on.
Uh huh.
They in the 1990s they remade this as a Disney movie, and I could completely see why. It's
Hmm.
very twee and very racist. It's perfect for Disney.
Yep.
Um, and then there's like a oh my god. So the editing in this movie is like very strange. Every scene goes on for way too long, and then they jump topics really quickly.
Yeah.
So like the scene at the beginning where they're in Africa, like and it's like the main girl is like a kid. It goes on for a long time.
hmm
Every scene does. Every scene goes on for a million years, and then hard cut 12 years later in New York. What the fuck?
and like in the scene where we first see Joe like as a grown adult,
Mm-hmm.
that dragged on.
Mm-hmm.
They
The
they
chase scene where they're just chasing Joe. It takes like 10 minutes,
ugh. There were
and it's like, I get the point. You're chasing Joe. Move on.
there were multiple points as we were watching the movie where you or me were making comments of like, get to the point.
I think this is the most we've talked during a movie of one of these
Yeah,
movies for this podcast, where we were
yeah,
just constantly being like, why are we still on this scene? Why,
like
like
the first
I'm not.
appearance of Joe in on the stage took
Mhm.
forever.
Yeah.
And then they
And then
had
there's the
the
strongman
the
scene.
strongman. Oh my god.
And they have to show you that each and every one of these 10 strongmen can bend metal.
Yeah.
Why? I got the point with the first 3. I got the point with the first
Well,
one.
we didn't even need 10 strongmen. We could have gone with 3 or 5 or
Just like
we don't need 10.
we don't need we don't even if you need 10 to be like, oh, he's got the strength of 10 strongmen. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You don't need every single one of them to show off how strong they are.
I mean,
Cut to the chase.
or if you do, have them all do it at the same time. Saves a
Oh
bunch of
yes, just
time.
one at a. They do it one at a time. Each and every single one of them walks up a little bit, bends a piece of metal. They're always just bending a piece of metal, and then they go back, and then the next one does it. I think like a few of them do something different. One of them like breaks a plank of wood over his head.
Yeah,
But most of them are
one of
bending
them
metal.
rips a phone book in half.
Yeah, one of them rips a phone book in half. But come on, man. I didn't need to see that.
It's like, we get it. They're strong. Okay, get to the point.
It's just constant. Like, this is not me saying like, millennial Gen Z person does not have attention span. No, dog. There's a thing called editing, and you got to know how to do it. You got to learn how to edit your damn movie. But the thing is, I'm sure that the editor wanted to cut more, but they had to make the runtime.
Yeah, the movie would have been too short if they only kept the essential stuff, so they just had him spin around for 5 minutes while holding a piano.
I was like, this is gonna be the rest of the movie. It's just him spinning around holding a piano. uh, God, this movie is not good. But it's like a classic, so people have to watch this. Can you imagine having to watch this in a film studies class? That sounds excruciating.
Yeah.
It was excruciating watching it for this podcast. Oh, what else? Like, I feel like we're done. We're already done. We've finished the podcast.
Thanks for
That's it.
listening.
Like, what else do we even talk about? I guess we could do away with Son of Kong and like kind of break it down a little bit more on a chronological basis.
So there, like, one thing I did want to mention is like with the effects, how they like. I already mentioned how with King Kong, like a lot of the effects they did, I was able to suspend my disbelief. Wait, is that the? Am I using that right? Hang on. No. Let me back up here. As I was watching the effects of King Kong, parts of them felt like, I don't want to say they could be real, but like when you're watching a movie from this time, this felt as close to realistic as they could get. When like we have a human person being held up by an ape. This movie does a lot. It feels it kind of does a lot of picking people up, but they decide to go the the claymation is kind of janky. Like, you can see night and day when it's an actual person and when it's a claymation human that's being picked up by the ape.
Yeah, and for instance, when Mighty Joe Young is holding up the piano that has the girl on it, Jill. That's right, Jill is her name. When that's happening, it does not look like it is a very convincing effect that Jill is being held up by a giant ape puppet, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't look like a real ape, but it sure does look like she's being held up by something.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem, is that the effect just doesn't quite look as good as King Kong. Like that's all there is to
Yeah.
it. Which is why quite frequently a lot of other movies will not go the stop motion route, because good stop motion animation is very expensive and hard to come by.
Hmm.
And Ray Harryhausen is one of the best, and this is what he can accomplish. And it's like, yeah, it looks great, but it doesn't quite look as good as King Kong, you know?
Yeah. Also, how did you feel about the gorilla compared to King Kong? Like, does that look like a
I th-
good gorilla to you?
I think the hair looked better, but nothing else did.
Yeah.
The face, okay, I can explain why the face didn't look right. It's because they gave him baby doll eyes, so you would sympathize with
Yeah.
him more.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. He's got these little baby doll eyes. He looks like a sad puppy that's been kicked, you
Hmm.
know. And you know what? He does end up getting kicked quite a bit. So,
Yeah.
uh, it's just a creative choice that they went with that I just don't like. But I think another reason why things don't look as good is because of the cinematography. Like the scenes that the claymation creatures are being put into, and by creatures I mean Mighty Joe Young
Hmm.
and the humans, who also are have some very ghoulish um, claymation figures of them made. Um, and I guess the lions also had some claymation as well.
Hmm.
Um, those creatures are being placed into shots that are not nearly as impressive as King Kong.
Yeah.
King Kong has wonderful cinematography, and this movie has utilitarian cinematography. It does the job. It shoots
Hmm.
the movie,
Yeah.
but it's not artistic, right?
Like in King Kong, you literally had to point out in King Kong to me that, like, with that first dinosaur they come across, like what was it, like a brontosaurus or something?
Stegosaurus
Stegosaurus, that was it.
that they shoot and kill and then walk
Like
around in a
as
beautiful
they were
scene.
walking around it, like that was impressive, because to me, I didn't really notice that it even was any kind of special effect. It looked like they were walking around an actual Stegosaurus.
Hmm.
Um,
And in this one, the effects, I would say the screening effects are better than in King Kong. There's less of the separation between the two scenes that are being overlaid on top of each other. They just look worse
yeah,
because they're not as well shot.
yeah,
It's just like I don't know. Maybe we should just not make monkey movies anymore if we're gonna make them like this.
you have King Kong to live up to. Just if
Yeah,
you can't,
King Kong's already made. Stop
if
making monkey movies.
if you can't beat King Kong, just don't even try.
It's weird. Yeah. Um, how do you feel about the acting in this one? We do have a little bit of returning cast, particularly Robert Armstrong
Hmm.
as Max O'Hara instead of whatever his name was. I always forget his name. It's not Jack. I remember that much.
Denim?
Denham. That's right, Carl
Yeah.
Denham. Um,
Honestly, he was probably my favorite actor in this movie. He did a
yeah,
great
but
job.
I didn't like him as much as I did in the other movie. But to
Yeah.
be fair, he was playing a slimeball guy, so he
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to be liked as much. This one, it kind of feels like King Kong with all the rough edges rounded off.
Hmm.
Max O'Hara is like more of a bad guy. Uh,
Yeah.
Jill is like more of a good guy. It's like, Joe doesn't kill anyone. King Kong kills a shit ton of people. Joe only kills lions
Yeah.
because Joe fucking hates lions. What is Joe's problem with lions?
Like, literally the first scene we see with him as an adult, he is just fighting a
attacking
lion in a
caged lion for
cage.
no reason. No reason. He just appears
He
and starts
just
attacking the caged lion.
he just doesn't like lions.
The lion didn't do shit, dog. He was captured and stolen by white people. Give him a break.
Yeah.
But then at the fucking nightclub where they've stolen like 10 million lions, they have enough lions to fight the entire Pokemon universe.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like
and he just starts fighting them all. He breaks the window open so he can fight them.
like when he first breaks the window and they start running out, like they just keep going. It's more and more and more lions. It's like,
So
how many lions did they have?
Why did they take so many lions? How did they take so many lions?
Yeah. How are they? I don't understand.
How many lions were harmed in the making of this film?
Yeah.
We don't have the ASPCA ratings, like the certification yet. How many lions were harmed in the making of this film?
I'm willing to bet the number is not 0.
It has to be more than 0. Did you see some of those effects where they were throwing the lions around?
Yeah.
Because like Joe is like throwing the claymation lion, and then they show a real lion being thrown into
Yeah.
a scene.
Like
what the fuck, dude? Why did you do that?
yeah, no, this movie just did not like lions, I guess.
It hates lions. This movie
And
hates
Joe
lions
Joe
so
is the
bad.
embodiment of that. Just
Yeah. I want to go back to the strongmen scene real quick. They were playing Volga Boatman during that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Why were they doing that? Why were they playing the Volga Boatman song?
You know what? I don't even know.
Euknyam. Like, come on, what's going on here? But there was the real reason why I wanted to come back to this. The scene where the last strongman, like the champion strongman, and Mighty Joe Young are boxing, that was like the best effect in the movie, I think.
Yeah.
That actually looked quite good.
The effect was good. The scene itself was boring. Because,
Well, yeah, but the entire strongman scene was boring.
Yeah.
It was
like,
the least boring part of the strongman scene.
Like the strongman punches Joe. Joe punches back. The guy punches Joe.
And repeat for 6 minutes.
Just that back and forth. It wasn't even dramatic. It was literally just pokey.
And then Joe just like throws him.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, scene's over, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just this movie's not good. It really all comes down, I think the movie would have been fine if every scene didn't drag on like this.
Now, Jill. She actually has a more important role in this movie than the girl in Kong did.
Yeah, she's an actual character.
Because
I don't like her character, but
yeah,
she is an actual
like
character.
Her actual like, she is a pretty face, but she's not just a pretty face. Like
yeah,
she's the person that can control Joe.
Yeah, and she's also like really fucking spoiled.
Yeah.
The way she yells at Joe is insane. This is her only friend, and she's like, Joe,
yeah.
Joe,
Like,
do this, Joe, do that, Joe.
Yeah, like, I want to feel sympathetic towards her, but the way she treats Joe, like, it doesn't feel like she cares
Actually
nearly
gives a
as
shit
much
about him at all.
Like
he's a pet. He's not a friend. He's a pet.
Yeah.
And it's very clear by the way she treats him that that's the case.
Because, like, especially just all the things that that they're having Joe do on
they got him
like
in
on the stage.
They got him in the motherfucking monkey suit.
Yeah, they had him in the monkey
dancing for
hat, and they were
coins.
throwing coins at him. She didn't care. She was like, "Pick up the
She didn't
coins,
care.
Joe."
She did not give a shit until they threw a bottle at him.
Like do you care about your friends? Like,
I guess she did give a shit, but she was still down with it until they threw a bottle.
like, does she not see the abuse that's being thrown at him? Like,
Literally thrown at him.
yeah.
Like they're throwing giant coins at him. These are not regular ass coins. These are coins the size of dinner plates.
Yeah. She just doesn't care. She's doing what she was told to do, which is make sure Joe behaves and does the thing he's supposed to do.
The only guy who seems to genuinely care about Joe is the cowboy guy.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, there's cowboys in this movie.
Yeah.
For some fucking reason, there's a cowboy in this movie.
Well, we
several
need
cowboys actually.
we need a guy that can throw a good lasso.
We need a guy who can kiss the girl.
Yeah.
Because Robert Armstrong will not kiss a girl, as we saw in Son of Kong.
and this girl was underage too.
Literally underage. They literally say she is underage in the movie.
They acknowledge it, and they still do.
They're trying to get her out of her contract so that they can get her back to Africa. And they're like, she's underage. You can't have her in the contract.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, but why you kissing her then?
Yeah.
Why you kissing her then, friend? Everyone hates Joe though for no reason. Everyone's like really mean to Joe.
Yeah.
Including making this African themed club, it is exactly as bad as you are picturing right now, dear listener. Because I assume you didn't watch this movie. Usually with this podcast, we assume you watched the movie, but with the bad ones, I'm going to assume you skipped it or you watched partway through and then stopped watching.
Yeah.
And then you listen to our podcast because you're a good, valuable listener, and you are a cherished listener, and you're very loyal.
You were aware that we watched it for you, and so you just wanted to hear our thoughts.
So you don't have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, this club full of lions, as we've established,
Mm-hmm.
also has a jazz band that's all white.
Yep.
An entirely white jazz band that plays violin music despite not having a violin in it at all. I didn't see a single violin.
I did when Joe was throwing instruments, I did see him throw a cello.
Maybe it was in the other bandstand.
Yeah.
But you don't hear any of the instruments that are shown off.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a saxophone, there's a trombone. You don't hear that shit.
Yeah.
And then there's like a bunch of drunk guys randomly in the audience. This movie throws complications to the plot at the screen at just like rapid fire, and they're like random ass bullshit. And so like one of the complications it throws is that there are drunk guys in the audience, who are really shitty, and they say a slur too.
Yeah.
They say a slur about Romani people.
Didn't they say? I swear they said a couple slurs, but like
that's possible.
Yeah.
They definitely said one about Romani though. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
And they decide that they're gonna give Joe alcohol for some reason. They're like, "What? They're the ones that throw the bottle at Joe." By the way, they're the ones that throw the bottle at Joe that makes her upset.
O'Hara even tells them off because
they're
harassing they're harassing a waitress, and O'Hara's
cigarettes
just
are
like,
gonna be on your tab.
Yeah, and then they're just like, O'Hara walks off, and they're just like, fuck O'Hara, let's go get the monkey drunk.
That guy doesn't know how to have any fun. That they literally talk like that. They're literally doing the drunk guy voice from like the 50s, because this is the 50s movie basically. And they're like, let's show that monkey how to have a fun time. I bet O'Hara never gave him any liquor.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we cut to the girl and the cowboy, Jill and the cowboy, at a Chinese restaurant, and I'm like, oh no, 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 no.
They
So
just every monkey movie needs to have a Chinese guy.
it needs to have some Chinese racism, but like they cut back and forth between the scenes, like to show the tension. Like they're not there to protect Joe, and these guys are giving Joe alcohol, and he's getting drunk as shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, well they haven't done anything racist in the Chinese restaurant, so that's nice. And then
Spoke too soon.
And then the fucking waiter comes over and is like, I have some racist things to say.
He shows up for like 5 seconds. They just had to inch that racism in there somehow.
They just like threw it in there at the end of that scene.
But,
and then they burn Mighty Joe Young's thumb, the drunk guys do, because they get mad at him for stealing their liquor despite them giving him the liquor. It was
literally their idea, but okay. I mean,
they're drunk, I guess.
Yeah, like that's their excuse, is that they're drunk and therefore they're not being reasonable people. But
then they start lighting a cigarette because everyone in the 40s had a cigarette on hand at all times. And then they burn Joe's hand because he'd asked for more liquor. Yeah. And then Joe gets mad and just destroys the entire place.
Yeah.
Rips the cage, the doors off the cage, destroys the entire establishment, fights several hundred lions.
Yeah.
Throws them all over the place.
That was our big kaiju fight of the film, is just him taking on 100 different lions.
Who do you think would win, all the Godzilla monsters or 10 billion lions? But then this scene ends with the police just coming in, hard cut. There's no like explanation of how the police stop him. Or like don't shoot him dead. Instead, we go right straight to a court case in which the court goes, we're going to have to kill your monkey.
As far as the court case goes, this is the first of these movies that we've seen where we actually see the legal ramifications in action. Like with Denim, we know he has like a bunch of charges against him that he's been convicted of, but we don't actually see it happening. But here we actually see.
Well, Max O'Hara does not get in trouble for anything.
Yeah, true. This is literally his club.
Only the monkey gets in trouble.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to kill the monkey. Anyways, Max O'Hara, you're fine to go free.
I guess Jill was the defendant for Joe.
Yeah, she doesn't get in trouble either. She's just like
she's just there as his legal defense, and then they're like
instead she's like, can we please just go back to Africa? And they're like, no, we're gonna kill your monkey.
It's just like, oh my God.
We have to kill the monkey. We have to.
I mean,
and the police get very determined about this.
Yeah,
they're very determined to kill this monkey. ACAB, by the way. I think that's the theme of this movie, is ACAB.
Yeah. Honestly, the cops in this movie, smarter than your average cop.
Smarter than your average cop, but also shittier.
Yeah.
Well, about average, actually.
I mean, like, when they're locked in the building and the guy is talking on the cut phone line, it takes a while to realize the line's been cut. I'm like,
yeah, they're conveniently smart. Actually, I think that's what I would put it at. They are conveniently smart in some places, and usually mostly conveniently dumb.
Yeah.
I think we have to explain the escape in whole, because this is preposterous.
Yeah.
The whole Mighty Joe Young escape thing is absolutely preposterous. So. Mighty Joe Young is set for execution.
Yep. They've got an entire court order for it. Like
they've got a court order for it.
They have a guard standing outside, make sure he doesn't escape his execution.
They're not at the jail either. They didn't like bring the monkey to the jail. This is at the club.
Yeah, no, they just reinforce the bars and like set up
Nobody's
a
getting out
guard.
of this one, lady.
Yeah.
Dame. By the way, the language in this one is like so stereotypical. Like just like, hey, dame, what's cooking?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. I feel like it's like worse on that than King Kong was.
Hmm.
Well, look at us broad. But yeah. So Denim and the cowboy have, or not Denim,
Not
sorry,
Denim.
O'Hara.
O'Hara.
O'Hara and the cowboy have cooked up a plan to get the guy out of here, to get the monkey out of here. So O'Hara comes down and he's like, I just want to see one last look at the boy.
Yeah.
And then he gets hit with a heart attack gun.
Yeah. He's just like, take me to my office, take me to my medicine.
And so the guard goes away, and then the lady Jill comes in and is unlocking the thing. Meanwhile, cops are on the way because the head cop has a date he wants to get to.
Yeah.
He's like in a hurry.
And they need to execute. It needs to be a big execution scene.
So they go up to O'Hara's office to give him the court order, and O'Hara's like, "Well, let me look at that. You didn't give me a chance to look at it." He's like stalling, obviously.
Yeah.
They get Joe Young out of there, and then they get him in the back of a van,
Mm-hmm.
and they start driving him away. But the police do find out. But there's like a whole like they got Looney Tunes on this shit.
Like as the police leave the room, leave O'Hara's office to like go find Joe or whatever. O'Hara like cuts the line of the phone and drops a flyer that says Las Vegas on it.
It has like, it's like a fake map of Las Vegas. Like they're not going north, they're going south though.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, they're dropping a false lead for them to find. And they're also like locking the door behind him and like tricking the guy who was in the patrol car to go inside, and then fucking up the patrol car, and then this and that and this and that and this and that. They have like 5 billion traps.
This was a convoluted plan to get Joe out.
Very convoluted. And yet the police still get through it easily.
Yeah.
And they start chasing them. And they like, for some godforsaken reason, the air on the tire of the van, they prepared everything except for the tires on the van.
Like the cops at this point think they're going north because they found the flyer. They found the thing that said Las Vegas and like, oh, they're going north.
Although they did say that we're also gonna check south just to make sure.
Yeah, but like they were mostly like the guy called in like we have a lead. They're going north, and then they have a flat tire. They have to pull in to get their tire like full of air again, and
because they didn't prepare that far ahead for some reason.
Yeah. Everything else was planned out, but that one just they didn't think of it. And so this guy like opens up the back of the truck for whatever reason, and he sees Joe and he freaks out because there's a giant monkey. He runs back to the police station, and like they're like, slow down guy, and he's I guess talking in some dialect.
He's talking in gibberish. But what they decide to say is that he's talking in a different language.
Yeah, but it just so happens that the police guy that's managing the front desk, he understands that language.
He's talking in my father's tongue.
Yeah, like
so it's clearly they're just doing like anti-immigrant like racism here.
Like there was literally no reason for him to be speaking a different language. He could have been speaking English and the scene would have been the exact same, but
don't you know all hobos are Italian or whatever the fuck they're going for here.
So
I
anyway,
love 1940s America.
That's what tips the cops that they're all going south instead of north. Like, oh, we've been duped.
And all because they had to stop for fucking air in the tire.
Yeah.
God damn it. And so this allows the cops to actually catch up with them, and they've got to be like, they got to do other shit. So they get on the road, and then for some reason, a random truck comes out of nowhere and stops in front of them.
Yeah.
It's just like it just literally comes across the road and stops in front of them for no reason.
And the guy that was driving that truck seems just super out of it. Like he's
Drunk,
not
maybe?
he is not in a state where he should have been driving a vehicle. Probably drunk, if I had to guess, but like
they don't explain it
like
at all. It just happens.
He's not communicating. He just wants to punch someone.
It's so weird. Yeah, the guy's like, "Hey, could you get out of the way?" The cowboy man is like, "Could you get out of the way?" And the guy's like, "Okay, I'm gonna kill you." Bah!
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this happening? Why is any of this happening?
Yeah.
But then they just steal his truck so they could dodge suspicion because the police know that they're in a van, a white
Yeah,
van.
they know
so
they know they're in a white van.
So they just steal his truck and put him
then
in the back of the van.
they do a little
instead of Joe.
switcheroo.
A little switcheroony.
Now O'Hara's driving the van, and the other
as a distraction.
two are driving the truck that they stole.
And then they make a turn so that they can get off the main road so they can be less detected. But it turns out the bridge is out.
Oh
Whoa!
no!
So they swerve to avoid that and get in the ditch, and they're in the mud now.
They like that this road is not well suited for driving on a vehicle because the dirt is just there's no grip in the dirt, I guess, and so they need to get Joe out to help push. But then the cops show up and they start shooting.
Well, first the cops catch up to what's his face, O'Hara.
Yeah.
He's like, don't go in there. And then it turns out it's the guy in there instead of the monkey.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, dang it. And
that was one of the two funny lines in the movie, wasn't it?
Oh,
what was it he said?
Oh, what was it? I don't.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I didn't write it down.
I just remember you commenting like that. That's one like.
Yeah, there was two funny lines in the movie. The one was right there, and I don't remember what it was. And the other one was when O'Hara was talking about how it's going to be a good show. He's like, "It's going to be classy," and he puts on like a big, like cartoonishly large pith helmet at the same time. It's going to be classy. It was good.
If you do decide, if you listener decide that for some reason you feel like watching any parts of this movie, that's
two good lines.
That's the only reason to watch it. Is just skip to those lines.
Two funny lines in the entire movie, and this is a comedy. Yeah.
Like O'Hara gets caught by the cops, and he does this whole thing of like, "Don't go in there," and then it turns out it was the drunk guy that was driving the truck, and then they drag O'Hara off and shove him in the cop car. Yeah.
And then they come after them. By the way, when Joe was leaving, the back of the truck is like a canvas thing, and Joe keeps like peeking out and doing little gestures at people.
Yeah.
And the movie loves to show you this, despite the fact that it does not drive the plot forward at all.
They just need to show that Joe's Joe. I don't know.
By the way, when the bridge was out, that's when I started shouting "End!"
Yeah.
Because I wanted this movie to fucking end.
Like, the entire chase scene could have been so much shorter, but it had to keep throwing curveballs. And
so yeah, they're stuck in the mud. They're
Joe,
stuck in the mud, and the police are coming.
Yeah.
And the police are just shooting. They're just like out the window of their cop car as they drive up in the dark, shooting.
Yep.
Blind. It was crazy.
And then Joe finally helps the truck get out of the mud, and then
he gets in the back of the truck, and then he peeks out of the back of the truck and goes, "Meow," and then the cops are shooting, and he peeks out of the back of the truck and goes, "Meow," and then the cops are shooting, and then he peeks out of the back of the truck and the cops are shooting, and then he peeks out of the back of the truck and the cops are shooting. This is what the movie is like.
Yeah.
Okay, and then all of a sudden the movie turns red. So the movie is a black and white movie, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it turns red.
Because
shades of red.
There's a the fire was the biggest curveball of them all. Like
suddenly they're at an orphanage that's on fire. It's just like comes out of nowhere.
They'd pretty much gotten away. They were escaping the cops, and then they just see a burning orphanage and decide, oh, we should help out.
They gotta stop and help the orphanage because it's a burning orphanage that comes out of nowhere. But yeah, now the entire film is red and it actually looks quite nice.
Yeah. It was
a very sudden change, though.
It was like, where the hell did this come from? It is a nice effect.
It looks really nice. I think the whole movie should have been red, actually.
Yeah.
It looks really nice.
And like, yeah, and then they run into the orphanage and they have to save the kids that are still in there, and like,
and I'm just like, what the fuck is happening?
Like, why are they?
The lady that runs the orphanage is like, there's 2 kids in there, and they go in there, and it does the whole usual thing when you're dealing with an orphanage of kids, and things are falling, it's burning.
Like, the burning the entire thing with the burning orphanage just confused me. Like, why is this part of the plot?
I couldn't tell you. But they save the kids. But it turns out there's a 3rd kid in there the lady just forgot about, I guess.
Yeah. And then so Joe gets out of the truck and he does help them because the cowboy
he mostly helps Jill.
Yeah, the cowboy
he doesn't give a shit about those kids.
The cowboy does his best to help out, but
he gets those 2 kids in a bag. He puts them in a sack.
He does try to go up and save the 3rd kid, but his rope gets burned, and so it's all up to Joe now.
And again, the kid comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. And so, Joe has to go save this kid, and this scene takes forever.
Yeah,
like every scene in the movie.
Every scene in the movie takes forever. He gets the kid, he's like trying to get off the building onto the tree, and then he gets on the tree and he's climbing down. But no, there's fire coming up the tree, and now he's got to go back up the tree, and he's going, and then now he's at the top of the tree, but he falls down a little bit, and he goes, it's like it just the same things keep happening over and over again just to pad out the goddamn movie.
Yeah. God.
And then the tree falls, and it stops just short so he doesn't die.
Yeah.
Nobody dies in this fucking movie. And nobody's in trouble for anything. There's no consequences. Nobody faces any consequences for any of their actions.
Like O'Hara, as they were planning out the escape, O'Hara says something along the lines of, like, he's willing to go to jail for this, or what, like, whatever. Like, he's going
I'm getting that guy out of here, even if it gets me in jail.
Yeah, like, which I guess is supposed to be O'Hara's redemption. Like, his redemption is that he's gonna do whatever it takes to help Joe escape his execution. And then, I don't know, I guess the burning orphanage is supposed to be Joe's redemption, even though Joe doesn't need a redemption. But they just have to throw that in there anyway, because now the cops won't chase them, because Joe did a good thing for humanity.
Yeah.
But
so now he gets to go back to Africa finally.
But we all know New York cops, that's not how it works.
Hollywood
but
cops.
Okay. Yeah.
Hollywood.
That's the LAPD, not NYPD. Yeah. But yeah,
oh,
man. Genuinely, the last 20 minutes of that movie did not need to happen.
Not a single bit of it. It was pointless. It's literally padding. It was literally padded out. They padded out the movie. Like, just write more movie. Write like a part that makes sense. Instead of just padding out this one chase scene.
God,
I'm actually extremely curious what the Disney movie is going to look like.
Yeah.
Surely it has to be better than this, right?
Yeah. I can't tell. I can't decide which is the most abrupt. Skull Island sinking or the orphanage.
Because
both literally didn't need to happen, and I guess
feel
we're
like the
just
orphanage is actually more abrupt.
and I guess they were written in there because the writer didn't know how to end the movie.
Very strange. That's not even the case in this one. The writer did know how to end the movie. They
Yeah.
just stretched out the ending well past the point where it made any logical sense.
Like,
Or
they had gotten away
any
from
sense
the
in general.
cops.
Any filmmaking sense.
Like, they had gotten away from the cops. And Joe didn't need, like, okay, sure, he saves kids from the orphanage, and so now the cops say goodbye, but we literally don't see the cops anymore. Like, there was no reason to redeem him. He didn't need redemption in the first place, and redeeming him by saving some kids does nothing for the plot.
No, not at all. It's just, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's just pure nothing. Like, I don't think films need to be logical. They don't need to be literal. They don't need to be anything. But just don't waste my time, dog.
Yeah.
I'm a busy person. I got things to do. Why you gotta waste my time with such a long ass scene that goes nowhere?
Yeah. Like,
literally, if they had just arrived at the ship and the ship had gotten them home, it would have ended in the same exact place as if they did the orphanage scene.
Like,
it added nothing except for runtime.
Yeah.
I guess maybe drama,
Yeah.
but it's not interesting drama. It's boring.
It, like, genuinely, I don't, like, where are Jill and the cowboy, where are their priorities here? Because they're here dedicated to help Joe escape execution, and they just decide, actually, no, we're gonna save a burning orphanage.
Okay, but it is a fucking burning orphanage. Of course they're stopping to save the kids.
I mean, yeah, but like...
What I'm saying is, why was that here at all? Why was it in the movie? Here's the thing. Everything that is included in a movie was included there intentionally by the filmmakers. Why did the filmmakers decide that this movie needed the orphanage scene? That's a much more interesting question to me than why did they stop to help the orphans, right?
Yeah, but even then, I don't know, I still feel like they should be focused on their priority.
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah, fair point though. Like, the scene just didn't need to exist, and
it didn't need to exist.
Even if they decided to include it, it did not need to drag on as long as it did.
Literally, the only part of the escape scene that needed to exist was the part where they tricked the cops at the studio or the nightclub.
Like,
that part was fine.
Like,
if you cut there, them sailing on the ship, bam, done.
Okay, let's say they did need the orphanage scene because they absolutely desperately needed to redeem Joe here. Here's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Jill and Cowboy run into the orphanage to save the kids. Fire makes the building collapse so they cannot leave through the front door. Joe goes in and rescues them. End.
Yeah, like, no bridge out, no fucking tire air bullshit. Just get to the orphanage.
Like, we don't need the third kid that's stuck at the top, and all of a sudden it's all up to Joe. Like, Joe already redeemed himself by going up to the burning building and rescuing them because they were trapped inside the burning building. He saved them.
Something I'm realizing right now, they did not debate for a second doing that. There was no debate. They just did it.
Mm-hmm.
Why was there, like, this is like the thing, right? You should have them be like, but if we stop here, the police might catch up to us. And then they go, well, but we have to save the kids, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
that's
why?
Insane.
Like, where's their thought process here? They're running. Why are they there in the first place? They are running from the cops to save Joe's life.
There should have been like a scene where you just have them in the cab of the truck driving past the orphanage, and then like Jill's like, but we gotta save them.
Yeah.
Or maybe the cowboy's like, I can't just leave those kids. I can't just leave them kids there. By the way, he's from Oklahoma. He should not have that accent on him. It's cultural appropriation. It's actually kind of insane that they didn't have more like any
like
debate. There's
they
no thought process.
genuinely, that would have made that scene better, because instead of having the whole scene drag on longer than it needed to, they could have just cut in that dialogue, and then it's like, okay, this is why they're doing it, and also this, like, sure, the orphanage came out of nowhere, but at least now we understand why it has literally anything to do with why they're there.
Yeah.
But
And
instead
you also
of
have-
having any dialogue, it's just like, oh, all of a sudden, orphanage burning, and they just make the decision to run inside.
Yeah. This one, I didn't like Son of Kong. This one makes me mad. I don't.
Yeah.
This one makes me mad. Like, not like mad, but like just like frustrated, right? It's just like, it's you're watching somebody mess up in public, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just want to stop them, but you can't stop them. It happened, you know, several decades ago,
Like,
almost 100 years ago.
like, so
This movie's considered a classic just because of Ray Harryhausen's work in it, and it's like, it's dog shit. It's dog shit. Who watches this shit?
like, okay, the beginning of the movie, well, the whole movie, but like especially the beginning of the movie was racist.
Yeah,
But also, like,
very uncomfortable.
so were the two Kong movies, so sure, I
Mhm.
can maybe let that slide. But also, like, and like, you know, the scenes dragged on longer than they needed to, but, you know, Son of Kong had some of those as well, I guess, and so, like, sure,
Although not nearly as bad.
yeah, not nearly as heinous, but it was still, like, there were a few scenes there that just were longer than they needed to be. And so it's like,
sure.
okay, well, sure. I mean, we've already had this happen once, so I, like, you know what? I can live with it. It's okay. It's fine. And, like, this movie has some jokes in it that they're like, trying to be funny, and, like, okay, sure, I can...
They're trying.
I can make this a lighthearted experience. I can just enjoy it. But listeners, if you could not tell, the scene that pisses me off is the burning orphanage scene. That's the scene where I lost it. That is the scene where I just could not justify this movie existing at all.
It took you a lot longer than it took me. I was out. I was already saying the movie was bad well before this, but I was really out by the time they did the fucking bridge out. Bridge out was my breaking point. Bridge out was like just padding to the point of ridiculousness. Absurdity.
Yeah.
It was absurd. It was the last 30 minutes of this movie are just patently absurd. And not like in a laughing with them, but a laughing at them way.
This movie was awful.
It's not good.
It was a middle finger to the viewers.
I'm kind of changing my mind. I think it might actually be worse than Son of Kong, just because the editing is just so much worse. And that's all it needs is a good edit. If you just like chop away a good portion of every scene, you could make a much better movie.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
Are we done here?
I think we're just ranting at this point.
Yeah, there's like themes. We always end with themes.
Right?
What are the
Yeah.
themes of this movie?
Okay, so for themes, one thing
They're the same as King Kong. Go watch the King Kong episode again.
it is literally the same themes as King Kong.
Except ACAB.
Like,
ACAB's a new theme.
that's true. So yeah, in King Kong, the cops were the good guys.
Kinda. They barely did anything in that movie.
Yeah,
They're
but
like nothing.
so 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 yeah, like it's about going and taking this monkey from his home in Africa and bringing him to civilization, and that was what spelled disaster. You know what I think though? I think the message the movie is trying to say is, you know, Jill deciding to adopt this monkey in the first place was fine. That was an okay decision. He was happy living his life in Africa. What I think the message should have been is she shouldn't have adopted the monkey in the first place.
Folks, don't adopt monkeys. They're not good pets.
Like,
they will rip your face off.
Her dad was actively trying to warn her against it, and he just caves into her.
There's a reason she has to yell to make the monkey listen to her ever.
Yeah, because
has to be real shitty to this goddamn monkey to make it listen.
Because
hey, listen, chatter, Mr. Commenter, Mr. and Mrs. Mix Commenter, who's about to tell me that apes aren't monkeys. Shut the fuck up.
Listen, we understand the difference. We know it, but honestly,
monkey's a funnier word.
Us calling Joe a monkey is not the most heinous thing about this movie.
It is not the most animal abuse that has happened in this movie.
Yeah. Speaking of, there was some monkey racism because they loved to give Joe bananas.
Gorillas don't eat bananas. I'm 90% sure they don't eat bananas. They
I
eat,
don't.
Like, shoots and leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, none of that needed to happen. There was
None
the
of
whole
this movie needed to happen.
Yeah.
It's just King Kong.
So yeah, like, I don't know, but yeah, like, back to themes.
Themes. Again, watch the King Kong episode. You get all the themes there. It's the same fucking themes. Nature versus the modern day, taking the savage out of the savagery and putting them in modern day. It just doesn't work. You gotta leave things where they belong, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess there's also a bit of like that Hollywood stardom ain't all it cracked up to be, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We love movies like that. Everyone loves to be told that it's not actually great being a Hollywood actor by Hollywood actors who are having a great time doing so.
Yep.
We want reassurance that we're actually okay not being Hollywood stars.
Yeah.
And then of course ACAB. All
Yeah.
cops are bananas, and Joe will eat them up.
This is true. All or maybe all cops are lions, and
he's gonna fucking murder them.
Jesus.
Joe hates lions more than he hates cops. I think that's pretty fucked up of him.
Yeah.
Pretty problematic, Joe. Sleepy Joe.
Yeah. God.
Okay, we have to end this.
So, what's the next movie we're gonna be watching?
It's actually a good one.
Oh?
The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. This is one that directly inspired Godzilla, so I'm looking forward to this one. It's a good time. 1953, so we're going into the 50s now. We're inching ever closer to Godzilla. We got 4 movies left before Godzilla. So
we're getting there.
Oh man, we might make Godzilla before the end of the year. That'd be neat.
Yeah.
I want to watch a good movie, man. Please give me Godzilla. I want to watch a good movie so bad.
We got to get through these. We'll power through them, and then we'll get Godzilla.
20,000 Fathoms is gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's not gonna be Godzilla good, but it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
And
all right.
Hopefully, by the time we get to Godzilla, the Internet Archive will be back up.
Oh my god, it was really hard to watch the movie this time because the Internet Archive went down, taken down by Israeli hackers who are claiming to be doing this for Palestine. Don't believe them. They're doing it because there's evidence of Israeli war crimes on the Internet Archive, and they're trying to take them down and blame Palestinians on it. That's as simple as I can make it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for the Internet Archive's return. We dearly need it. It is an important archive in general, but especially for this podcast. And hopefully it'll be up next time. Haru, where can people find where you're up?
So I am Haru Hayes. That's Haze. You can find me on twitch.tv/Haru Hayes. That's where I do my streams. I'm also on Discord. I'm also on Blue Sky. I do have a Twitter. I don't use it, but I have it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Watch my streams if you want to see a trans girl being a cute puppy girl, then that's the place to go.
And I'm Vampire Ian everywhere you may find me, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, whatever. All the social medias, I'm everywhere. You can find my videos. I do lots of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. I do lots of other stuff. You'll also find the YouTube uploads for this podcast there on my channel, my YouTube channel. I think they came out pretty nice, actually. They look quite nice. They're all up there now, and we're also on every podcast app. Make sure you're subscribing to us on your podcast app of choice, downloading the episodes. Give us a rating if you can. Lots of different podcast apps will have ratings. Once we start getting some ratings, we'll like to read them on the air. Currently don't have any, but we are available now, so you can actually find us on iTunes and whatever podcatcher you're using, except for maybe exactly iHeartRadio. Sorry about that, but again, we're always available on YouTube and all those other podcast apps. And the ratings really do help, and sharing this around with people who who will like this, who are interested in kaiju films and would like to see a perspective like this on the films. It really does help. So anything you can do to help, we really appreciate it. And I think now, Haru, it's time to say goodbye to Mighty Joe Young. Sayonara, Mighty Joe Young.
Sayonara, Mighty Joe Young.
Or should we have called him Mr. Joseph Young?